Then went on from there to like buy cleaning products, went round, go door to door selling like flannels and dishcloths, and I'm not sure my parents know all this, but they will know it now.
Like, school wasn't really for me, or I wasn't really for school, whatever way you would put it, but to me, like, the system failed me because, like, I'm just me.
Here's the thing, Jamie. What's wrong with daydreaming? What's actually wrong with it? You know, in my school report, it was actually seen as a negative. It's actually a massive positive because that's how entrepreneurs grow businesses.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Talks Trades. Today I'm with David Sudworth. He's from Mr Soot, Chimney Sweep and Training Group. We're going to see how he got into the trades, and then we're going to move on a wee bit into some key topics. Hope you enjoy this one. David, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Jamie.
How are you?
Not so bad, actually. Good train ride up from Manchester. Reasonable night in the Premier Inn. So, yeah, looking forward to today.
Awesome, mate. I appreciate you making the journey up. I'll start where I always start. How did you get into the trades?
I got into the trades basically because I bought a late 19th century house that had a really rubbish old gas fire in like a 1980s monstrosity. Completely hated it. And I wanted a coal fire. So I tried to find an installer who would fit a coal fire for me, and no installer would fit one at all. And they didn't tell me the reason why. They just said, "Oh, you don't want one of those. You want a log burner. You want this." I said, "Well, no, I want a coal fire. That's why I've asked." So no one gave me a straight answer. So I started looking into the reasons why, and there are some good reasons why they couldn't do it, basically because of logistics and getting a liner in a flue of that size, etc., etc. Anyway, it was at the time when I started to want to do something different with my life. So I actually decided that I would go into the solid fuel industry. So I enrolled in the chimney sweeping course, and I never really looked back.
Wow. Wow. And what kind of led you to that point then? Like, what was happening before that? Was there, like, what was your...
Yeah, so I'd worked in like newspapers and marketing and PR for about 20 odd years, and I just wanted to do something different. Going all the way back to my childhood, actually, when I was about 7 or 8, I actually I had the entrepreneurial bug quite early on, and I kind of suppressed it for
See, I knew there was something. Yeah. You were away right to this point. I thought, no, you're not getting away that easy.
No. It's there's definitely a story there, and basically what it was. It was like I'm a kid of the 80s, so when I grew up, business was always in the news. There was like there's big privatizations happening at the time, and business was always on the front pages. And we always had the newspaper in the house as well. And also at that time, things like Only Fools and Horses, Minder were on the telly. So there was an entrepreneurial spirit in the air, and I think I caught some of it, to be perfectly honest. So I would go into school like with like a 6-pack of Diet Coke. I'd buy it for, I don't know, £3, as it probably was back then, and sold them for, I don't know, £1 each. Mm-hmm. So, and I loved that. I really got a buzz out of it. And I then went on from there to like buy cleaning products, went round our local estate. I used to go door to door selling like flannels and dishcloths and to the old ladies. I'm not sure my parents know all this, but they will know it now. So I really love that side of it. And then as I got older, things changed and I wanted to go into journalism. So I kind of went down that route, but I've always kind of been a bit of an outsider, a bit of a kind of like get up and go type person. Because as a journalist, you have to be able to speak to people, get in front of them, ask the right questions,
sense an opportunity, and pounce on it.
Absolutely,
so it's quite entrepreneurial, that in itself.
It is, and so
you need the same traits probably.
Absolutely. So after a few years of me doing it via marketing and PR, I actually read a great quote that said, why would you spend your life kicking down other people's sandcastles? Why don't you start building your own? And that really resonated with me. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to start building some sandcastles. So I wanted to go into business, and it dovetailed with that kind of little story. I thought for years, I want to do something different, but I don't know what. So I went through the whole, could it be a sandwich shop? Could I open, a valeting business? The problem was I am hopeless at DIY. Yeah. So anything with my hands was kind of like a bit like, I'm going to have to learn a new skill. I'm still not fantastic with DIY. But nevertheless, I age and maybe a sense of frustration. I just got the confidence to be able to make that leap.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I made that leap, Jamie.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And then what happened in the world of this then? So you've done the course and it's quite niche as well, that isn't it? So you've went like right into that particular niche, and that's just because you felt the problem that you had and went, there must be other people with this problem. And they're not getting the proper advice as well. And
exactly that was the real bit, the proper advice. I didn't get it, and I thought, why can't I be told what the issue is?
yeah,
So, like I said, I actually started looking for reading up on it myself. And then I kind of thought to myself, there's so many trades out there who are probably good at what they do, but in terms of giving that advice, some of them are not very good. Some of them, it just doesn't happen. So I was kind of bringing the pain of an issue in, and also using my communication skills. And that's been a big feature. When I started Mr Soot, I was a one-man in a van. It was a 600 quid Bilingo van. It was, as much second-hand stuff as I could cobble together, did the course, passed it, and then I started implementing the kind of things that I've been doing for years, like making sure that the logo was consistent and that we had a good booking system, a user-friendly website. And the chimney sweeping business grew from there because essentially what I've discovered really is that customers want a seamless journey from start to finish. And if you're not giving them that seamless journey, that friction could cause them to go elsewhere. So I've taken that into every part of my life, and consequently, anytime I go into like a restaurant or a bar or any kind of business, I'm always on the lookout. Like when I was a journalist, I was always on the lookout for a story. And now it's like I'm always on the lookout for good ideas. You know, like coming up here, I've already got a few good ideas anyway from coming up here. So, and that's the thing. I'm really passionate about it, and I love it. I'm actually enthused by it. And that's the great thing, because like most people say, if you're enthused by your job, if you love what you do, then you'll never really work another day again.
I think I'm picking up on a lot of what you're saying is basically, and I would agree, tradespeople are really bad at communication normally. Like that's the sort of that's the brush that we're all tarred with, I would say. And as soon as you crack the code of the communication, which isn't always easy to do, but once you understand, then it actually opens just a whole new world to what business and entrepreneurship and actually growing your business can be. Like you said, it's so I can see that why the communication background would have been so important for you, and it probably does sort of lead on to, we were speaking a wee bit off air around like, why don't they speak about this stuff in schools? Why don't they teach those skills? And it really is a there's a big hole there, isn't there? Between there's one thing leaving school, getting a trade, and becoming a good. For me, it was a roofer. So you become a good roofer. The thing that I think probably made me different was my communication skills were there, because from an early age I was similar to you, where I would like have the milk run, or I'd done like a little gardening weekend job, and then like my work experience, strangely enough, ended up being like an M&S, and I was working in the store in there. And I always remember like speaking to the customers, and then like I was sort of, I'm relating a lot to you with what you were saying, like even though I was there on the week's work experience, and because I'd not been going to school very often, I'd missed the sort of, everyone else had took all the trades positions, and I always thought I'll always do a trade, but I just went back to school and they said, you're going to M&S because that's like that's the last work experience job that's there. But rather than going and seeing that as a negative, I went there actually, I was away from school, so I was quite happy, but I went there with quite a positive mindset, and straight away I was like just scanning the area. What's making people smile? What's happening over at the tills? Why are they enjoying that? And I just like started to, I could see it as you were explaining it. You start to get this bug for that's made somebody feel happy. So there's on one hand you've got you selling the cans of Diet Coke for like a £3 markup and gives you the buzz, but on the other hand, the people who was buying them, they were probably happy and going, oh, that's good. Do you know? So like you start to merge those worlds together. And I think there's probably something in what you're talking about. And it is probably an entrepreneurial mind, but not everybody's maybe just got that. So it's the ones that's not got that, maybe how How do they get it? Is that making sense?
Absolutely,
You know?
yeah. I mean, it kind of falls into a few categories. It's like the ones who've kind of got it naturally, the ones who don't have it and will never have it, and there's those who have it but don't know how to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So on the training center side of our business, we have men and women coming in who have been doing the job for 20, 25 years, and they're fantastic. They know their stuff. Put them in a classroom and have to write out and do an assessment, and some of them will fall to pieces.
Yeah.
And they do. It's very common. And so one of the first things I say on any of our courses is, this is not like school. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Assessment is part of learning. Those kind of things are really important, and it immediately puts people at ease. So as a consequence, we're known as being a centre that works with people to help people, not trying to trip people up.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Communication covers every part of your life. It'll make sure that you have good relationships. It'll make sure you have a good job, and it'll make sure that you'll have a happy life, because communication is it's one of the massive senses, isn't it? So at the end of the day, if you can't master that, then you've got a problem. So when it comes to kids, like, the school system worked for me because I enjoyed things like English. I enjoyed things like languages.
Yeah.
You know, that side of my brain works fine. The mathematical side of my brain, forget it. I'm just not there at all. But it worked for me. But there's kids whose brains, it doesn't work for either part of them. So it'll work for their hands.
Yeah.
But there's been so little emphasis on vocational skills. And my views are actually quite radical. I think that by the age of, say, 14, 15, you know what you want to do, in the sense that you know broadly what kind of path you'll go down.
Yeah.
Like, I actually dug out my old school reports from like 1993, and shock horror, I haven't changed. David talks too much. David daydreams. David could apply himself if he could do well if he just applied himself. Well, yeah, I'm still like that now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Jamie. What's wrong with daydreaming?
Yeah.
What's actually wrong with it? You know, in my school report, it was actually seen as a negative. It's actually a massive positive, because that's how entrepreneurs grow businesses. We spend endless amounts of time on holiday, in the car, you know, in the bath, whatever, thinking about new things. So, you know, if it was me, I'd have daydreaming as part of the national curriculum, because I actually think that's a good thing. And also, there's kids from like backgrounds who don't have what's called scaffolding. So they don't have that support. They are probably very capable, but they don't have that support. So my view is that if kids want to go into a vocation, they should be taken out of the academic route reasonably early on, because what happens is, I'm a prime example. If I'm shoved somewhere and told to do something I don't want to do, I just don't engage.
Yeah.
That's just not, I can't do it, and I won't do it. And yeah, that's stubborn, but most entrepreneurs and business owners are really stubborn.
Yeah.
So why is that innate human trait not being nurtured in school? The school system almost wants to fight against nature.
Yeah.
And I say it needs to work with nature.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing. Definitely.
It's just, to me, it's basic sense. The problem is, this stuff will take time. It will take decades.
Yeah.
It'll probably be when me and you are 6 feet under. It's certainly longer than any government cycle.
Yeah.
So which government will want to set something in train which it will never reap the benefits of? Well, none is the answer.
No, it's unlikely.
But if a government in the 60s had gone down this path, we'd be in a better state now. Whereas at the moment, kids are basically they're taught the 3 R's, and there's certainly a massive emphasis on academic achievement. But not everyone is academic. You know, I went to university, I got a degree, but I still have a real hatred for things like, maths and sciences and literature.
Yeah.
It just kind of bores me. I like what I like.
And how would you build it then? Would you have it so like if I take my own example, so like I always usually say school, like like school wasn't really for me, or I wasn't really for school, whatever way you would put it. But like to me, like the system failed me because like I'm just me. I just went along. I just get told to go to school. It's surely no up to every young person who goes to school just to like just do exactly what you're told, and if it doesn't work, then you're bad. So like you're off, kind of thing. There's got to be like a more of a workaround. But for me, I knew quite early on, like you're saying, I knew like I wasn't going to be like academic as such. I wasn't going to go to uni. I wasn't going to probably venture down any of those types of career paths. But I did know I would likely work with my hands. I knew like I'd already had sort of like, the gardening jobs and different things like that at weekends. So I knew like I can be hands on, but I'd built up a good amount of probably communication skills, which was great. But the things that would have been quite handy in terms of maybe like the English and like maths, for example, like I really needed maths when it came to estimating roofs and stuff in college, and you learn that a bit. But when you're trying to learn how to estimate roofs when you've not even got like the basics of the knowledge. Like I didn't even get like a pass mark on my exam because I sat the exam and it was weird that they let me sit it, but I sat the exam and I actually thought I'd done all right for once, to be fair. And then when it came to it, I had on like my marks to just say like non-applicable basically because I hadn't done enough of the curriculum because I'd been put out the maths class. So I was like, why did you get me to sit the exam if it wasn't going to be possible to have? I don't know if that was just because I've had 100% aced it or something like that. They might have said, right, you'll get something. But for me, a hybrid model would have been much better to say, right, you're probably going to be hands-on, like absolutely. But like, let's see if we can cater these skills that you'll need. Like you'll need maths if you want to have a trade because you'll need to use a measuring tape and just the basics, and you might need to work out some areas and meter squared and like
make it applicable.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Because the big thing is we go like, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
If somebody's from what I'm hearing from you, you sound quite similar to me, and I don't know if that's just like an entrepreneurial type mind, but like you want to do work sort of once and let it like continue to work. So like you don't want to like do something, no idea why you're doing it, then just go in the next day and do it again. You want to go, if I do X, Y, and Z here, it's going to get this result, and then I'll know how to do this, and then that can start to happen all the time. It's like you want to build these neural pathways in your brain to say, if I can work this out, then I'll be able to estimate roofs, or if I can work this out, I'll be able to speak to a customer in this certain way. If I can work this out, I can send good emails, I can put quotes together. I think there's something in what you say in terms of if people decide early and they've got that entrepreneurial spark, you could build that.
Yeah, and absolutely, because it's absolutely right. You've got to make stuff relevant. So for me, science was not relevant. Today, science is very relevant to what I want to do.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, well, when will I need to know this?
Yeah.
So, but even so, this stuff can still be learnt later on in life. The bits that really people really struggle with, which not that they can't be learned, but they're harder to learn, is the customer service skills, the daydreaming, entrepreneurial skills, letting your mind wander, the kind of soft skills that most people think that they don't need to run a business, but are actually the difference between running a very successful business and a business that either plateaus or goes down very quickly. Like at the moment, it's classic. A lot of traders are saying, I'm so quiet. It's quiet out there.
Yeah.
And people are losing their minds. And when you ask them, well, what have you done? Well, nothing. They're just losing their minds. And it's like, well, that's not going to help anyone. So you need to look at your marketing. You need to look at, are you using your existing customer database in the right way? Those types of things. Yeah. And people go, oh, yeah, but it's still quiet. Well, and then what happens, and this is, I believe this is one of the main reasons why this happens. Most people don't understand that differential between good quality customer service, the customer journey, the quality marketing. The only metric that they understand is price, which is why a lot of trades end up cutting prices or being very price sensitive on behalf of their customers, because it's the only metric they kind of understand. But here's the thing, you'll know as the owner of a trades business, price is way down quite a few target customers'
Priority list.
priorities. Yeah, absolutely. Ease of communication, fast quotes, fast turnaround. They're the things that matter. That's the value. People are not interested in money for money's sake. They're interested in value.
Yeah.
And that, if that was taught at school, more businesses would not be in a death spiral now, because they're now basically worrying that, you know, we're not in 2020 anymore, and not everyone's wanting not everyone's wanting a bar in their garden being built or whatever. So there's the old phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
But when the tide goes down, that's when you need those skills, and that's where I think those should be hard baked in at the compulsory education stage of your life, so that later on, when rocky times do happen, and they always happen, then you're well equipped for them.
Yeah. So you would implement sort of customer service into the school curriculum, in essence, is what you're saying?
I would, because for two reasons. One, it benefits those who want to deliver customer service, but also, secondly, it benefits those who are on the receiving end of customer
So they
service.
understand what they should expect.
Exactly. They understand both sides of it. How many people now have an inflated idea of what they should expect from a business?
Yeah.
That's not their fault.
Yeah.
Because expectations are set by them, whereas they don't understand the other side of it. So if you run a business, you're probably a lot more forgiving of other businesses, because you understand the kind of issues that they work with.
Yeah.
And you know that if you are going to complain, it's a genuine complaint.
Yeah.
And you'll be constructive about it, rather than just ranting on Facebook and saying this is disgraceful and taking pictures of, cold chips and pizza and say, look at this disgusting thing I got from whatever. So, you understand.
You can look beyond the sort of the face of it, really, and you can say, oh, well, they're probably got a bit of a skill shortage of their own, or a people problem behind the scenes, and maybe someone's not quite following the system there. Or
I mean, I completely understand that. It's like, come on, David, this is a bit much. This is a bit. But my argument is, well, we've done the same for generations and we're still in the same place. Why not try something radical? A lot of kids will still want to go down the academic route, and that's perfectly fine. But the system needs to be fair and equitable. But at the moment, it's kind of stacked in favour of the likes of me.
Yeah.
And that isn't fair and equitable. Granted, there'll be some people who don't want to do anything beyond what they do, and they might just be happy working on the site or working on the tools, and that's fine, absolutely fine. But for every angry tradesperson I meet, behind it usually is because they don't have the skills to be able to get out of the hole they're in. They don't like their customers, they're fed up of their job, and they see it as basically a ticket to the weekend or beer tokens. And that's a waste of potential for a lot of people, I think.
Do you think on the flip side of this, like I quite like the fact that if you are a person that's got that entrepreneurial sort of spark, if you like, and you do have that daydream kind of mind, and you can access that sort of, I wonder if there's more for me out here. There must be. And then you go and you kind of go and sort of scratch that itch, if you like. Then I like the fact that can put you ahead in life. Like, I like that I'm probably part of quite a small population of people that go, I'm going to go and seize my own opportunities and I'm going to make this happen. And I do try and spread that as much as I can and take other people on the journey. But what I have come to find is, like, some people are just quite happy, I sometimes call them like an NPC, like a non-playing character. Like, they're kind of almost, I know that sounds terrible, but like, there's just some people that's just quite happy, like, they're not really tuned into what's around them. They're living the same, it's Groundhog Day. They're living the same day over and over again. They get up, they get up the same side of bed. They kind of go make the cup of coffee with the same cup every time, and do you know, it's just like autopilot all day, and do you know, they do this set of routines, and then they come back and then they moan about how bad their day was, and then they numb themselves with Netflix and whatever, and then they just go, or social media, and scroll, and then the next day they just go again, and it's quite a repeating cycle. I think that the system might be built to make sure there's a lot of that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
that's probably another conversation entirely.
yeah, it's like keep them quiet and keep them in the
you know,
dark and stuff. Yeah. I mean, I think
because here's the side, right? So if, for example, we were all taught that way, so customer care's there, how to sort of like how to tap into that entrepreneurial spirit, and do you know, how to be a great communicator and all of that stuff, then there's masses of them people coming out into the world, then like who's working for these people, and do you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
But I agree with what you're saying, because I like the concept. I do believe there has to be massive change. I just don't know what would happen if we then had we then had masses of people who's all entrepreneurs, and it's like, right, everyone just has a business now.
Yeah. But by the same token, those same people who work for someone else will have better customer service skills, which and you know, lots of people work in customer service as an employee, and they really like it.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they're all budding entrepreneurs who want to get out there and start their own business.
Yeah.
They just end up being very good employees.
Yeah.
But at the moment, particularly in, you know, I know it's a different sector, but in the leisure industry, for instance, in hospitality, there's massive shortages. You know, I can't have escaped anyone's notice.
Yeah.
That the majority of people employed in hospitality now has dropped. The turnover is massive, and the age range has gone down massively.
Yeah.
You know, in the 80s, it was like every waiter was like over 50. Like, where are the over 50s waiters gone?
Yeah.
They've all disappeared. So it's like things have changed massively. But I do believe that equipping these skills is good, not just for the entrepreneurial folk. Yeah. They will do it anyway.
So they might not hit that level actually, as what you're saying. So it's just going to mean that the general customer care is going to be better. I guess businesses, one of the biggest struggles in businesses is probably training, because everything is, like you said, quite hard out there, quite price driven. So, you know, in order to try and like have a good, successful, profitable business, but then add on a percentage to say we're going to also put in X amount of our turnover per year to training, it's hard for small businesses certainly to do. So it would be good if there was maybe a helping hand before that. So like as they're coming through school, like some of that training's actually already done.
Yeah.
You usually find if we hire someone and they've maybe come from, say, like Sky, for example, they've had really good training, because Sky's massive. They've got the training budgets. They put people through the right training. So if they get the right person with the right training, you get a really solid, good communicator, good customer service skills, good sort of customer retention skills. We all know that one for Sky. Do you know? So like they're trained to sort of deal with complaints or deal with these wee mishaps that might happen in the service and turn that around and keep the person on board. But small trades businesses, they've no chance of having training like that really in place.
You see, I think that the smaller the business, provided you get the recruitment right, and again, you know, this is something again which needs to be looked at. If someone employs the wrong person, it's the business's fault.
Yeah,
you know, and we've all done it. You know, there are certain things which thought shouldn't have ignored that sign and stuff, but you do, because that's what happens.
It's easy in hindsight.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's the whole thing that you recruit on values, and you train for skills.
Yeah.
So it's getting the values right, which goes back to kind of like, you know, train customer service, train what customers want, train that you don't, as a tradesperson, just dump all your problems on your customers.
Yeah.
You know, we had a guy come round a few weeks ago and checking the boiler, and without looking at the boiler, he said, "Have you just bought this house? Yeah, you probably need a new boiler." What? He went and looked at the boiler. It was fine, nothing wrong with it. Sorted it, and it's like, that's dreadful customer service, because right from the get go, you've put me.
You're scared.
Yeah, it's like, well, is this rogue traders? Is it? Are they accurate? Are they, what's the story here?
Yeah.
So it's like those small tweaks could be made, and they don't have to be like long courses. I mean, as a training centre, we obviously provide skills to do the job.
Yep.
But we've started delivering like business courses, because there's so many people out there who haven't got those skills, and they need those skills, because without them, they are plateauing, or in some cases, just their business is going down. I'm talking people who've been in the game for a long time here.
Yeah.
So I do believe that a more balanced education system would suit both employers, employees, and in your own personal life as a customer as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, are you hoping to drive a bit of change there with that?
Yeah, I mean, if any government minister is listening to this, I'd love to have a chat with them, and it's something which I think it needs to be talked about more, because we have the same conversations time and time again, and it's usually not done at a national level. It's done entrepreneur to entrepreneur, and these kind of things. I mean, I know some people might raise their eyebrows and go, "Well, that's all a bit radical, David," but I don't think, speaking to you here today, I don't think I've said anything which is massively ridiculous or left field. It's more a case of just tweaking things to make sure that you're making people fit for the 21st century economy, which is a world away from the economy which I came into at the age of 21. In 25 years, it's changed beyond all recognition.
There's some small things that probably like small trades business owners could do. Just as I'm hearing you, like I know that you're saying like, right, go right back to the schools and do it from there, which would be great, but it is going to take decades, like you said, which is the sad reality of it, because you'd love to see it, but it's just changed, and this system takes so long. But if I look at myself, so I came through, like I left school, like basically no qualifications really, and I went straight into a trade, became an apprentice roofer. It's like a 4-year apprenticeship. And so I did go to college because that's part of it. I never see that as quite going to college or university type, but it's more like college with your apprenticeship. It just feels a wee bit different to me, but it's almost like it's quite hand in hand, and if you know what I mean. Whereas some people go to college, then go to uni or whatever, but with the trades, it's very much you go to college for the first 2 years, into a third year, and then you get your skills test at the end. Anyway, so you go through that, and then I spend a couple of years being employed, like as a roofer. I've sort of built up some good customer care skills. I know how to like be in a team and different things. So I've picked that up probably again because, like you said, having that wee bit of a brain to look for opportunity. I'm thinking, how's everyone acting here? Like, how do you know? I think that's almost, I don't know if that's that daydream state you're talking about, but it's almost like that wee window that opens up and says, I need to pick up information that's here that's going to help me later on.
It's a fascination with people.
Yeah.
You've got to be interested in people.
Yeah, and you see how they act and what's working and what's not working. You know, you see the happy faces, so you go, right, that's probably good things to say, and you see the kind of, they didn't look very happy with that, better not act that way or whatever. But so I picked up enough skills and then went on and started myself, sort of self-employed roofer. Took my brother on as an apprentice, and then we had a few kind of self-employed guys with us in the early days. It then went on to become like an actual business, but the only time it changed was probably by education in the later years. So it was, went to a networking event, got out my comfort zone, got given a book, the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, E-Myth Revisited it is, and when I read that, I was like, I thought I didn't like books. But I read that and I was like, that is me. And then I thought, right, okay. And then I was like, the guy who gave me it, he was like a sort of business coach mentor. And I was like, well, like, what's the next book? It's like, this is unbelievable. And there was a lot in it. And, you know, it is telling you about like company values and, like consistency, and probably building a lot of the model around like the way like McDonald's does things, where there's actually a system at the back of it, and systems, processes, but it's quite a light touch. It's not really a how-to. It's very much, here's what you should do, here's what's possible. And so I sort of at that point straight away was like, oh, this makes sense, totally makes sense. That I understand that. And then you think, right, we'll have the guys in nice uniforms, we'll get the Vans sign written, we'll get a good website. You start to build that brand, and you go, right, now people know what we are, but like who we are, but like how are we doing it? And then you're almost going, right, well, here's a wee set of guidelines. Like every job we do, we'll do it to the best of our ability. We'll tidy up at the end. We'll let the customer know when we're coming. We'll let them know when we're finished. If we're leaving the job, we'll like go and chat their door and say, look, we're just away for lunch. Don't get worried if you think we've just gone away for the day. Just constant communication. And like those basics are what the customer's looking for, like you said. And probably in the early days, I was probably winning the work because, one, I was cheap, but I was actually adding all this value as well. So I was over delivering massively in the early days, which built our reputation, because we were probably too cheap, but then we were over delivering. So our reviews and our recommendations and everything was just going through the roof. And then through time, probably by continuing to add that value and then finding a way to systemize that. So for it not to be me, but for it to be a team of people that I've employed to those values to deliver on that system, that's when I realised, right, okay. And that just came by reading book after book after book, and almost feeling sort of guided into, like, I always felt like I was reading the book I should have been reading.
Yeah.
I don't know if are you much of a reader?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my attention span's quite short. It's got shorter since the advent of iPhones and stuff and TikTok. I enjoy reading, but I can only read probably the first 20 pages.
Yeah.
So I get that now.
Yeah.
That's me done. I get this because a lot of books just repeat the same thing.
Because sometimes I know, like when I say to a lot of trades business owners, like, you need to read books, like a lot of those I would like listen to on audiobook as well, but sometimes I'd need to buy the actual physical copy as well, so I could go in and just read the information and like highlight it and then take action on it. And I think, but like I was saying, I just felt like from every book I read, it was almost like, oh, this is the one I need to read just now. So I went through this almost journey of, say it was the E-Myth, and then I was like, right, okay, that makes sense. And then the next one I got given was a book called Built to Sell. It was like how you should build your business to sell it, even if you don't want to sell it. And I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense as well. And then things were starting to, the foundation was being built. But then what I was finding was, through this marketing, sort of built that core sort of marketing function, getting a lot of inquiries, but maybe not like converting them as much. So the next thing I'm on to like Grant Cardone, 10x rule, sell or be sold. And now the next thing I'm like, so I'm now a roofer who's coming off the tools, but actually becoming a salesman in his own business.
Have you read Business for Punks by James Watt of Brewdog?
Yeah.
I love that book.
Yeah.
Because that book actually talks about a lot of stuff which the other books don't. And it talks about being the kind of like the out there, don't basically
go against the grain, basically.
Yeah.
Like, don't do what everyone else is saying, like find your own path.
And that's what, as entrepreneurs, we do.
Yeah.
We do that. And here's the thing. When that happens, you start to get attention, but it can come with quite negative attention. And at that point, a lot of people, then they start to wilt, and they go back because they actually
retreat.
Yeah, because they don't want to have their head shot off if they're sticking it above the parapet. They don't want that. So things. To be fair, I think that's probably one of the things that's better now. There's certainly a lot more acceptance of people than there was years ago.
Yeah.
There's some things that we'd have said to other kids at school which you just couldn't get away with now, and probably for the right reasons. But if people stand out, in my generation, you get shot at. I get stuff said to me, said about me, and you got to develop a thick skin. So even that kind of thing is important to know, because not everyone's happy that you're successful.
Yeah.
But it takes a while for you to understand that that's their problem, not yours.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that for you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, was that part of it was that hard to deal with?
The hate,
Yeah, they kind of like
putting the head above the parapet,
yeah,
and it still is.
yeah.
It still is because you start as everyone loves you because you're just a roofer who's just left their job and you've took this big huge plunge and everyone's like, wow, you're so brave, like what a guy. And then everyone recommends you and goes, oh, like he's cheap and like he does a good job and great customer care and everybody loves you. But then when you actually build a business and you change your full life around and now you can have things in life that you'd never had before, I think there maybe comes a bit of hate, a bit of jealousy, and you certainly start to get shot down. I find it even with the podcast. Do you know, like if I was to say something like that would just offend, like if I was like tradespeople charge too little and they should do better, like you would just get killed for it, do you know? And it's like, but I just want you to have a better life. Like it's just driving the whole market, do you know? So it's like as soon as you want to have an opinion on something, then you're going to get hated. And James Watt's like the prime example of that. It's like if you're going to have that opinion, like you're going to feel it. And to be honest, when you're saying it, like am I there yet with that? Probably not. Like I don't like when I see the comments come up and people go, oh, like I had a comment on one of our podcast snippets. I think it was last night, or well, at the time of recording this, it would have been last night, and it was just something along the lines of like that guy's business is a sham, blah blah blah. Done such and such, cut somebody's hours and said they had to make it up at the weekend because they were in a contract or something like that. And I'm like, that's not true, but like there's probably like something in there that makes sense because we like, so my main business, Taylor Roofs, like we are contracted to give guys 40 hours a week. Equally, they're contracted to give us 40 hours, and it's probably been something in the past where it's been raining and we've said, look guys, it's raining, we're not going to get anything done today, would you mind, it looks like it's going to be nice on Saturday, we make it up on Saturday. There's no point in you sitting in a van all day and not getting paid. And there's probably things like that in the early days, but like probably now more so it's like our team here very much finds other jobs for people, and right, you could maybe do this in the rain, we could maybe get you to do that, you can maybe go and pick this up for us. So there's always trying to find that workaround. But I guess people are just they're just, I don't know if it's a jealousy thing, I don't know if if it's just a troll thing or what, but I would say if you want to be successful, you probably just need to go through that.
You do, and I think what you need to do is, so there's a few ways you can take it on board and let it drag you down. You can try and fight back. The way I do it, I actually use it as fuel.
Yeah,
it fires me up.
Yeah,
it's like it's all. I'm probably going to regret saying this. Really am, but sometimes it's like, bring it on.
Yeah,
because I will do better.
Yeah,
because the only competition is you. When you look in the mirror, that is your competition. And whether you go forward or not is dependent entirely on you. And going back to the whole education thing, it's about giving that resilient mindset to people that, yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you're going to get knockbacks. Not everything's going to go the way you want. Yes, you will get people who have a go at you, try and drag you down, but just use that, grab it, use it as fuel and go back harder. And that's not a macho thing at all. I'm not into all that by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, it's just, that's the bit that kind of keeps you going forward.
Yeah.
And I think even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're like an employee or even retired, that kind of resilience training is probably very important.
Yeah.
And that I mean, I'm sure it happens in schools to some degree, but I think it's certainly relevant to the trades.
I think a big part of this is, so if you think from school and all the way through, we probably at school teaches us like we want to be liked. I would say we probably get that feeling. I want people to like me, so we do things to find where we'll get liked. Somebody's maybe playing in a football team, but they're not really like fitting in right, and now all of a sudden they're over like in music, and they found their wee tribe there, and that those people like them. But now now these people go, oh, you're like, we got this at school. It was like, you're a band geek or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but the footballing people would say you're a band geek now. These people are just trying to fit in, and then they pass around. Like when I was at school, like fighting was my thing. Like I used to always fight and be in trouble at school, and it was just there's probably do a full episode on why maybe that came from upbringing and different stuff. But that was like, I couldn't quite find anything to be like, what's my thing going to be here that like I'm going to be safe and people aren't going to bully me, and
Finding your tribe.
that was sort of it. So like I just became like stood up for myself and fought a lot through school. So I kind of had this wee identity of like sometimes there was probably people who were like friends with me, but they were just like literally just like do you know, we would call it kind of like just bumming me up or whatever, because they're like, oh, like he's quite hard, like he'll kind of look after me kind of thing. And so sometimes you're making friends that probably you're thinking, if I wasn't doing that, like I maybe wouldn't be. It's the same as like if you're really, really good at football, everybody seemed to kind of like you. If you're really, really good at one thing, do you know? But basically what I'm getting at is what you come to probably realise, and what I've came to realise, if you want what's right for you and you want to if you want to actually stay true to yourself and not be liked by everybody, half of the people are going to stop probably liking you, maybe more. And at that point, you're going to attract hate from the other ones. And if you're really vocal about what you want to do, then like it's going to go from like they don't really like you to these people kind of like you and they don't really like you to they actually hate you and now they're firing abuse at you and they're like actually like keep going. So like the prime example is probably like Trump. Do you know, it's like he knows, and a lot of these politicians know, that they only need half of America to like them. They didn't need everybody to like them, do you know? And that was something I actually picked up off the guy Grant Cardone. I don't know if you've heard the Grant Cardone, but like read a few of his books, went to one of his seminars and stuff, and he's quite out there. But it's I think it's good to be exposed to that and then bring it back into your own sort of world and utilise parts of it, even if you don't agree with everything that they're saying or doing. But he was one who was big on that from the marketing point of view, that like you don't need everybody to like you.
And that's why a lot of trades are cheap.
Yeah.
Because they think everyone wants it cheap, so therefore everyone will like them. Whereas you really should be niching down into, you know, in our training, we're quite unusual because we actually, I say to them in our training, right, we're going to paint a picture of your ideal customer. They'll have a name, they'll have an address, they'll have a job, they'll have what type of fireplace they have, you know, all those types of things. So you're kind of niching down. So and it does come from the fact that you want to be liked by everyone. But, you know, I think it was Seth Godin who wrote The Purple Cow, said that everyone is not your customer.
Exactly.
And I think that's a lot of this stuff that we're talking about today, Jamie, it becomes evident over time. I think what I would love if there could be a way of shortcutting that, or kind of brought into kind of like mainstream thinking. There's a big, I mean, I went to America last year and I was gobsmacked at the difference in attitudes in America towards business compared to...
They celebrate success.
It's like here, it's like, who does he think he is? Yeah. And over there, it's like... You know, you go. I mean, I love America. Some of it's a bit over the top for me because I'm very British. But you know, I
there is an in between though, isn't there? There should be, in my opinion. Like I feel like America's like as it's sort of, if I use Grant Cardone as the example there, he's very much 10x rule, yeah man, like all the way. And then there's like us, which is like almost in the gutter at some points. It's like, like you said, who does he think he is? Like you got a successful car here, you need to try and almost hide. Do you know? Or like you're going to get hate. And it's like, or if you buy a new house, it's like you're going to get hate, do you know, or whatever it might be. It's and it's not everyone who's like that, but there's the bulk of the population is I look at them, and it's always very much something around they must have ripped somebody off to have that. Do you know? There must be something dodgy there. Mustn't be paying tax, or there must be. Do you know? There's always like, it's just hard work, resilience, reading all them books, picking up the skills, all that customer care stuff, them lessons like what you were talking about, just communicating.
And that's where I think the education system does have a part to play in almost changing our national character towards success and entrepreneurship. Yeah. You know, businesses in the UK are generally kind of like hit them for tax, make them pay, you know, the rich should pay more and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that's like, well, you've done that for so long and we're still in the same situation. So maybe that's not the right way to go and not the right way to think. I think by, you instill values from an early age, regardless of what those values are. And if you don't instill those values, then you can become quite susceptible to outside influences later on. So if we instill the values that entrepreneurship is a good thing, start your own business, self-improvement is a good thing. And like you say, almost kind of get halfway to the American idea that success is to be celebrated.
Yeah.
I think we'll end up with a happier country. I genuinely do. Obviously, we wouldn't pull everything from America because it's got its own distinct problems.
Yep.
But I liken it to the fact that it's a very young country, so it hasn't had time to develop its prejudices in the same way that maybe the UK has. America is less than 300 years old as a country, so it's in its adolescence, so it's in its idealism phase. I hope that doesn't change, but it may do. But I think for us, that there's certainly a lesson, and this podcast has been all about lessons, about instilling that in our young people, so in 40, 50, 60 years' time, it becomes part of the national psyche rather than something that we're having to teach later on and going through all the pitfalls and difficulties that the likes of me and you've had to go through.
Definitely. One thing I was thinking about there when you were talking about adding value and then price, there'll be people that if you're a trades business owner, you go to visit a property and you're going to quote for the job, like if you say, "Oh, I'll make this nice and cheap for you," like you might have just lost the job at that point, because cheap isn't for everyone.
No.
So if you're focusing on just that, you're probably going to lose the job. You need to look at, how can I add value? I'll turn up on time. I'll be reliable. I'll get the job done right first time. If something goes wrong and we don't get it right first time, we'll come back. We'll return. We'll make sure it's right. You'll get a guarantee. You'll have written quotes. You'll have a written invoice, like digital, obviously now. But do you know? It's like, what's the things that's setting you apart? And I think that was one of the things that you were touching on there, which I do think makes sense, and you've just got to like believe in yourself as well, and that's probably something that's we've probably peppered in throughout this episode without really just saying that. But like a lot of these skills from school all the way through, it's like you're going to have self-belief, and you're going to need to go against the grain a wee bit, and when you do that, you've got to then, like if we took like the Business for Punks example, like they were going against the grain, that takes massive self-belief. Because if you're going to go against something that's the norm, and then you're going to back yourself up, and that's coming from somewhere. It's, you said about being stubborn. Sometimes that's just a gut feeling. If your gut feeling is that strong and you're believing in it that much, then you're being stubborn because you're being driven by something that's deeper than just that's what society told me to do.
Well, it's no. I don't think it's any coincidence that people who come from public school have an air of confidence about them. And where's that air of confidence come from? Well, yes, it could have come from the parents, but it's certainly, I think, I've never been to a public school, but certainly people who I know from a working class background who've gone to a public school, they have massive amounts of self-confidence. And I think that takes you far in life.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can overplay your hand and you can fall flat on your face with it. Yeah. But, that business is, and happiness in life is all about confidence. People who are unhappy with their lives are usually because it's easy to say no to something.
Yeah.
I won't go there. I won't do that. Thanks for that, but I won't. I'm not coming out tonight or whatever. Every time I've said yes to something, even if it's not turned out right, I've been happy that I've said yes, because it's put me in a situation which enabled me to learn. Every situation is a learning experience. So I
coming all the way up to Scotland on podcasts, for example.
Well, this is it. I mean, at the end of the day, some people might say to me, well, why are you losing 2 days worth of work? And that's, you could have got X number of thousands of pounds. You're focusing on what you lose.
Yeah.
You need to focus on what you're going to gain. And sometimes that gain doesn't pay back for a long time.
Yeah. We spoke about that autopilot thing.
Yes.
And what I think is, I follow a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. So he's a it's like science-backed meditation. So the guy, long story short, he was a chiropractor, fell off his bike, broke his back, and was told, like, you're probably not going to walk again, your back's not going to heal properly. And he healed his back through thought alone. So that's like that, almost like that daydream bit that you're talking about. I'm kind of piecing this together into like what my version of that might be. But anyway, meditating, sat with himself, like visualized, manifested his back together and healed his back. So then went on to teach globally how he did that, how you can do it in your life, how you can heal yourself or how you can change. And so what he talks about a lot is that if you're in the predictable known, every day is the same. Like we said at the start of the podcast, it's Groundhog Day. You've been told this is the way to do it. Then, start the day the same way, go to your work, go home, moan about it, watch Netflix or numb yourself with just scrolling TikTok all night and whatever it might be. And then the next day is the same and the same and the same. There's no room there anywhere for like an unknown experience, for something new to happen in your life. And what he is basically saying is, if you make a new choice, so you might say, do you know what? I'm not going to go on social media tonight. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go out a walk. Like a new idea might come in. Now you're thinking a bit different. Tomorrow you're going to do something different. That idea might come into play. Now you do that. Now you're not in a predictable future anymore because you're not running on this same automatic program. You're starting to reprogram yourself, and then you're stepping sort of outside of that norm. So that's how that ties in to me. What you're saying is, if you do the same all the time, you're never going to change your thoughts, at least, but you're not going to change at all. And in order to change, you really need to change your thoughts first, because everything we think about wanting to do starts in the mind.
Which is why I say daydreaming should be on the national curriculum.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think it can be different things for different people, and there's probably like, so to some people it's religion and to other people it's meditation. It's like there's something there, in my opinion, that you can tap into without us going too deep. But that daydream point that you're talking about there, to me, that's probably is, the social intelligence, and you're tapping into it, whatever you want to call it. I think you're tapping into something that's not going to be what your teacher's saying to you in that moment. It's just, you're just tapping into something, and it's giving you that new thought, and you might just write that down at that point, and then it plants a seed, and before you know it, that could be a business, or it could be a new business idea, it could be whatever.
I mean, when it comes to our training, for instance, I prefer discussion rather than me standing on my imaginary altar telling people this, that, and the other. If people are engaged, if they want to discuss things, and if they feel like they're participating in something, then I think that's to the benefit of everyone. I think it's too easy for kids to kind of almost emotionally check out of the education system. Yeah. And by and large, those kids will either end up on the dole or in a trade where they kind of just fall into. The trades should not be a default dumping ground for kids that don't know what they want to do. In the likes of Germany, trades are respected.
Yeah.
They are massively regarded. Customers respect them, and as a society as a whole respects them. How have we got to a situation in this country where trades is seen as basically a second choice career? People say that going to universities is a waste of time. It's not a waste of time, but what we should be doing is getting people from university and wanting to come into trades because they have the skills to be able to apply to the trades.
Yeah.
But why wait for someone 20 years afterwards like me who comes into the trades because they got bored of the white collar? There's a white collar and blue collar divide in this country, and the quicker that gap is bridged, then the better for everyone.
Yeah. Good stuff. I think that's probably us for time.
Really be enjoyable.
What if anyone's want to reach out to you, get in touch, hear more of this wisdom? Where do they come?
Absolutely. Well, email address is david@mrsoottraining.com, or they can look on our website, www.mrsoottraining.com. I love hearing from entrepreneurs. I love chatting with them and just exchanging ideas. So, the more the merrier. And it's been a pleasure to meet you, and I've took a lot away from this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a
Jamie.
good chat. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well, guys. If you're enjoying the podcast episodes, then please like and subscribe and share. And as David said, go and reach out to him if you want to have any further conversations around that. We'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thank you.